the sunshine.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to Coffee Thoughts podcast. Thank you so much for watching. So first of all, I just want to say, I'm sorry it's been a couple weeks since I posted an episode. I was moving and I'm currently in my new spot, which is awesome. I have the same backdrop, obviously. I'm actually standing up today. I wanted to do a standing up podcast because I've never done that. And I was doing like a self-tape for an audition a couple hours ago, and I just had my camera set up to where I was standing. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do my podcast like this. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I know, like I said, you haven't heard from me for a couple weeks, and I felt it's always like it's a hard decision to like not do like to say like I'm not doing a podcast this week, but I kind of like I just had to. On top of like moving, I was just kind of like I just went through this patch of like being very like internal, and I was kind of just like going through some anxiety, and you know that I feel happens to me sometimes still after like a really good patch of like, you know, peaking kind of with just like flowing and being in like a really good vibration. You know, it just kind of happens because life is all contrast, and life is up and down, and at some point after a mountain there's going to be a valley, you know. And so I didn't want to put out an episode while I was kind of just, you know, transitioning and in that kind of zone. And I feel like anytime like introspection happens, for me at least, like I always learn something. And I feel like anytime, this is why I think it's just so important to try to look, like when you go through patches like that in life, like look at it, like see the value in it, and see that maybe like the universe is putting you through that for a purpose, because you need to observe something about yourself or about the way that you're thinking. And for me, I think the biggest lesson the last while has just been like, even the last like couple years or a year or whatever, has really been just like, yo, like reality reflects back to you what is going on within you. And that's just like a lesson that I feel like I've been taught over and over and over again. So anytime I feel like I go into that zone of introspection and kind of like anxiety, it's really just me like noticing that again and being reminded of that. And I posted like an audio clip on my app, the SayWeCanFly app, which is free if you want to download it. There's a link below. I posted an audio clip. It was like 10 minutes long. I posted that like a couple days ago and kind of talked a little bit more about that. But anyway, that's kind of why I didn't post an episode, and I'm sorry that I missed doing it, you know. It's not like I was happy about taking a break. But anyway, I'm back and we're good, and I got my setup going again. So a couple updates before we get into the episode. So first of all, as you can see, I have these Stay Cozy head sweatbands, which I'm really pumped about, because I remember back like in the early 2000s, like the bands I would listen to, people wore sweatbands, man. Like people wore that shit and it looked cool, and like I never see anybody wearing them anymore. So like, you know what, I'm gonna make some because I like that, and they're really comfy. And I also have these SayWeCanFly wrist sweatbands, which is something else that I used to wear. I don't know if you guys remember, but like back in the early 2000s, for me it was like 2009. I would go to Hot Topic and like they would sell these, or like Ardeen's and shit would sell these, and they would have like cool like emo designs. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna make some of those too. So if you want one of those, I have, I think like maybe 30 left of each, and you can click the link to my Depop in the description. So yeah, so other than that, with merch, I'm working on building a line for Stay Cozy. So I basically designed like a whole outfit, so that'll be probably released in like a couple months, maybe a month or two. I'm really stoked about that though, because it's like my philosophy behind it was like, I want to create something that I would wear, because a lot of times with my merch, I didn't necessarily love it, you know, but I was like, you know, I can't do that. Like I have to just make an outfit, or, you know, design stuff that I would wear. So that was kind of my philosophy behind it. So that'll be done soon. And I want to say thank you to everybody who orders from my Depop. It really means a lot. I do all that stuff myself, so it really means a lot to have that support. So aside from that, I finished the Nosebleed EP, and I'm still working on mixing the acoustic version of the album. But I should have a new song out very soon. I know it's been a while, so I'm working on trying to shoot a music video for probably Anxiety. Either that, or there's a new one I wrote called The Shape of Your Bones, which I really like too. So I'm going to shoot a music video and drop that as soon as I can. And Walking Disaster as well, I'm going to put out just as like a single acoustic thing. So that'll be cool. And then The Gentleman Stoners, if you guys watch that, it's a show that me and my friend Micah created and are shooting a whole season of. And we just put out episode 3, and we're almost done episode 4. It's going to be a really long episode. I think it's our funniest one so far. Really enjoyed filming that, and so we're going to finish up filming this weekend. and then probably release it next weekend. But if you want to check out the Gentlemen Stoners, please do. It really means a lot because we really love shooting this show, and I love the characters. I love writing it. I love just everything about it. It's so fun. So you can go to thegentlemenstoners.com if you want to check that out. And I think that's about it for updates, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that's it. Like I said, the SayWeCanFly app is out if you want to download that. You can send me messages, you can send me voicemails. My links are all below there. And yeah, okay. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, contrast, but also kind of talk about, I guess, like racism and homophobia, or just kind of in general, like sexism. I guess, like, I don't really know what the proper word would be, but it's just like discrimination against, you know, if you're gay or if you're transgender or whatever, because I know it's an issue still in the world. And it was just Pride Week and everything, and in Toronto at least, I don't know, Canada at least. But you know, it's something that, like, I think mostly just because, like, so many of the people that follow me or that I've talked to over the years, like, you know, have just so many different, like, sexual orientations and, like, are so many different races and stuff, which is not obviously something that I, like, you know, register, but it's just, I know that these kind of things have been an issue for a lot of people that are in my life because of my music. So I like to kind of talk a little bit about that stuff. And I know, like, obviously if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're probably not the kind of person that is racist or discriminatory or whatever, so it's not really like, hey, stop doing that. I think it's maybe to help just build a little bit of a wider perspective, or at least the way that I see that stuff. I think it's still worth kind of talking about, because, you know, I still do get messages like, hey, like, I came out as bisexual, I came out as gay to my parents or whatever, and I'm really scared, or just stuff like that. You know, I kind of want to talk about why I think that shit should not matter at all, and it actually doesn't matter. And I did make a video about, I think 4 years ago maybe, about racism, I think. I don't remember exactly what I talked about, but I kind of want to approach it from just like a different perspective at this time. So I think the number one thing that I don't, I guess, understand how people don't, like, see, or why, like, I don't understand, like, because to me it's just such like a normal thing. It's just like, yo, like, this is so obvious. Number one is that no matter what our sexual orientation is, no matter what our color, our skin is, no matter what our religion is, anything, literally, like, below our skin, we are all just the same. We're made out of the same shit. Like, if you did an X-ray of 1,000 people that were all completely different, you wouldn't be able to tell, like, what nationality they were, what race they were, what their sexual orientation was. It would just be a bunch of skeletons, because that is literally what we are. I mean, just like physically, like, that's below the surface, and we're obviously all a lot more than that on a spiritual level. But I'm just saying, to me, that's just one thing I don't understand, that why people don't realize that. And I wrote a song called High School, and I did like a little anime. I didn't do the animation, but I released that a couple years ago, and that was kind of the basis behind that video. It was about this kid who goes into this school, and he just wants to play music, and he's, like, bullied, and at the end he literally gets shot by these, like, police or these guards or whatever. But then at the end, the whole world is about to die because there's a giant sun coming toward the world, and it's at that moment where the police drop their weapons and they realize, like, holy shit, like, we're gonna die just like this kid we just killed. And the idea behind that is really just like, yo, we are, like, if we were actually in that situation where, like, our lives were in danger, we would be exactly all the same. And so I think it's so key to remember that and carry that awareness. It's like, obviously people are different, they look different, they sound different, they come from different places, but that is, like, all such surface stuff that it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter at all. And I think it's just so many of the issues we have in the world are because that's all we see, you know, that's all people see is, like, what's on the surface, when really that's complete fucking illusion, like, completely. And anyway, so I think it's just as far as, like, just like skin color, you know, because to me, I don't know, like, I guess, like, here in Canada it's not really, like, a predominant issue, I think, like, on a big scale. I think in some parts of the USA, like, at least from my experience, it still is. Contrast, like, nothing exists without something else existing to contrast it with. So I would not be white if there were not different colors of skin to make white a color, even though it's not really a color, I don't know. But and it's the same with any other color of skin at all. It's like, no, that's what I don't understand. It's just like, you wouldn't exist if there weren't other people to contrast you and make you appear to be an individual, or to have something that makes you different from everybody. So it's like, at the end of the day, we literally all need each other in order to exist, or in order to perceive ourselves as an individual, or to perceive our, people who are the same nationality or the same religion or whatever as that. We have to have the other ones. And this is like, I think in life in general, people don't remember this. It's like, it's the same with like a good time or a bad time, or like happy or sad. It's like, you literally need the other thing in order to even know how, like, you need to know how it feels to hurt in order to know how it feels to love and be happy. You have to know, because otherwise you would not know, and there would be no happy at all. And this is just something that I feel like I've just been constantly like reminded of in my life to remember, because then you can't appreciate what you have if you don't also appreciate the flip side of it, And I think it goes beyond like, sexism or racism or whatever. It's really like a deeper idea than that. I think you can apply to anything in your life at all. And man, I guess like with the whole, with like sexual orientation, I think we're kind of getting to a point as a whole where I think people are just not like caring a lot less about that, which is great, because it's not something that anyone should care about. And but I know there's like, extreme cases and situations and groups of people that like still have a problem. But it's like, if you have an issue with that, you're not like, if someone has an issue with your sexual orientation, that's not someone you even need to worry about. That's not someone you need to have in your life. That's not someone that's worth giving any of your energy to, because I think ultimately, if you're a good person, if you're a loving person, even if you have certain feelings or maybe you don't understand things, you keep that to yourself. It's like, even if like you don't understand how somebody else makes a decision that they make, or how they might feel, if they're gay and you're straight, it's like, you keep that to yourself. It doesn't matter. You respect the fact that people are different than you, and that's what allows you to be who you are as well. And I think it's just something that we need to understand. And you literally just cannot judge anybody by any of that shit. It's like, you don't know. Like, you can assume that like a group of people is a certain way, but when you start to break that group apart, there's all these individuals that are completely different, and you can't put a label on that just because something is different than you, or you might not understand it fully. And I just think it's so important to remember that. And again, I think we're kind of calming down in general. It's like, people are being way more accepting, but like, ultimately, man, we should all be completely accepting, and this shouldn't even be something that anyone has to talk about. It's like, it just doesn't matter. It just should not matter at all. And I hope that we get to a point where it doesn't, because it's just not something that you should have to ever like worry about, And it's just crazy how like we're still at this level as humans where it's automatic to, like, when you meet somebody, if they're different than you, like, that is one of the first things you notice, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like, we're so kind of ingrained with these labels and these kind of thoughts of like separation, and that's just kind of how it's been hammered into our heads since we were young, and that's just kind of how the world works. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Like, we can just appreciate it instead of labeling people and judging people and projecting shit onto people. It's like, it can actually be a great thing. It's like, yo, like, it's cool as fuck that everybody's different, because that means that I'm completely different, and you're completely different, and you're completely unique, and nobody's like you. But that would not be the case if there weren't all these other people to make you different than them. Like, you have to have those people in order for you to exist with different qualities. And I just think it's such like it's just a view thing. It's just a perspective thing. And I don't know. I hope that people get to that point. I think a lot of people that are growing up now don't care about that shit, because it's not really their focus anymore. It's not like what you focus on when you're a kid. But I still think it's important to just be reminded and just kind of be aware of that. And yeah, I don't know. So I just think the idea of contrast, like, you can't have one thing without there being another thing in order to contrast that first thing with, to make it a thing. But I think it's like that with anything in life, and you just have to try to appreciate everything as still being one thing, because at the end of the day, even though other things and other people need to exist in order for you to be an individual and perceive yourself as that, ultimately that in itself is still an illusion. Is still, because everything that's happening in your life and all the other people that are in your life, and I've said this before in previous episodes and I'll continue to say it, everything that's taking place in your experience of reality is just that. It's just your experience of reality. It's and everything and everybody in this whole planet, this whole universe is within you. It's only in you. And the idea that somebody else is having their own life and their own consciousness within your perception of reality is still something that's taking place within you. Even if you say like, well, this person is like has their own life and they're doing all this, you've never experienced that. So the idea of that is still only happening within you. So it's just like everything is a part of you in that way. So it's like at the end of the day, even though things appear to be separate and there has to be contrast in order to have duality, at the end of the day, everything is still one. So it's just this kind of weird paradox of like they're both happening at the same time. So I think it's important to appreciate everything and all the little aspects and all the little things that make up the whole, and allow you to experience duality, because that's a really cool element of this reality. And it's like we actually get to experience duality, and there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for us to be able to experience that. And one of the things is experiencing the shitty part of life, because we get to experience the good part. If there was no shitty part, there would be no good part. So it's just, I think it's just like a foundational idea that it's really important to understand. So what I'd like to do my next couple episodes is I actually like to read an Allan Watts book, and there's one book that I read years ago on a tour, and I believe it's just called The Book. I'm pretty sure it's called The Book. I have to find it, I have to dig it out of my closet, but it basically talks about these ideas of duality and non-duality, and it really is an incredible piece of work. So I'm actually going to read that for my next couple of podcasts. I know it's not something that everybody's going to be into, and you know, sitting and listening to somebody read is like, you know, not the funnest thing in the world. But I think it's like if you like to listen to like these kind of ideas that I talk about, I think it'd be cool to actually go to like one of the dudes that I learned from and that has helped me develop my perspective on the world and on reality, and actually just like read you some of his work if you haven't ever listened to him. So, and plus, like, I mean, to me, it's like I like to fall asleep to that kind of thing too. So if you just want to put it on to fall asleep, that's totally cool. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that for the next couple episodes. So it's gonna be pretty cozy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and just remember to try and appreciate everything in life, everything as a whole, and just seeing the value in every part of that wave. Like whether it's a valley or a peak, or someone's different than you or the same as you, just appreciate it all. Remember that you are consciousness, and ultimately like that is the essence of you, and that is the essence of everything else that you're perceiving is just consciousness. And those forms should not matter. Those forms, although they appear different, like what's underneath those is not different. It's the same. It's the same as it is you. It's part of you, and it's the same life, you know. So just remember that. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will definitely see you next week with some Allan Watts material. I'm actually pretty excited to do that. It's going to be super cozy. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. Like I said, if you want to download my app or follow me, all the links and stuff are below. And yeah, if you want to pick up a little Stay Cozy headband, go to my Depop, Bradenberry. And yeah, alright, I will see you guys next week. Stay cozy. Peace.